Hello, my name is Stefan Zimmer. I'm the Secretary General of the European Hearing Instrument Manufacturers Association, and I'm delighted to talk to you in the next 10 to maximum 15 minutes about the role of hearing health in employment and job retention. Let's get to it. This is my quick agenda. We're going to talk about the set of data we are using for this, the current situation of labor and skills shortages in the EU. Then we have to address, why are we talking about hearing in this context in the first place? Is it worth it? We talk about some relevant examples, health examples pertinent to work, falls, stress and sleep, overall benefits of hearing aids at work, and conclude with this. Now, the data I am using for this presentation stems from 9 European countries, from Western Europe, Belgium, France, Southern Europe, Spain, Portugal, Italy, and from Northern Europe, Denmark, and Central Europe, Germany and Poland. And this is all recent data from our, many of you know them, Eurotrack surveys that EHIMA conducts since the year 2009. Down below you can see the link at our EHIMA website where you can download those surveys that have been published. These are online surveys where we ask a representative sample of people in the respective country whether they have a hearing loss or not. If they use hearing aids, what their self-assessment of the hearing status is, and so on and so forth. So wherever you see this symbol here, you know that the data I'm using in this presentation is from a pool, representative pool of those 9 countries you see here below. So it's a fair, I would say, fair sample for the European Union, at least for our purpose. Now, labor and skills shortages in the EU, this is what the Council of the European Union says. There has been a significant decrease of working age population in the European Union. That's not news to you. Especially underrepresented among the workers or workforce are women, low-skilled workers, older workers, young people, people with migrant and minority racial background, and persons with disabilities, such as severe untreated hearing loss. The unused potential with more than 20% is quite significant. So I'm sure that when addressing hearing loss and looking at timely hearing care, professional hearing care, we might be able to tap on some of this unused potential in the future. So the European Council says, let's address the individual and structural barriers to labor market participation. And why are we talking about hearing in this context? Because untreated significant hearing loss can be such a barrier to labor market participation. This is what the World Health Organization says. Overall, adults with hearing loss have increased odds of unemployment or underemployment. It estimates that the global annual cost of hearing loss through productivity and workforce reductions is as high as $182.5 billion. And that number is already 4 years old. A study that EHIMA conducted back in 2019 found that only 64% of people with hearing loss at working age were in employment compared to 77% of the general population. So here again we see people with untreated hearing loss are less likely to be in employment or in full employment. And the same study comes to the conclusion that lost productivity due to the higher unemployment among individuals with this disabling hearing loss amounts to a staggering 55 billion euros annually. Again, this is data from 2019. It's fair to estimate that it's going to be much higher if we were to conduct a study now. So in summary, this is the trend we are seeing. An aging population. At the same time, we see that hearing loss prevalence increases with age. The older people get, the more likely it is they have hearing loss. And if this hearing loss stays untreated, it's uncared for, it is linked to higher unemployment and underemployment. This all leads to rising expenses for untreated hearing loss, shrinking workforce, lower productivity. And I'm not naive to say that we can turn this around by hearing care fully, of course not. But I think we can contribute to reversing this trend at least a bit by more and earlier professional hearing care. And I'm going to make the case for this argument in the next slides. Let's talk about falls. Falls, you might think? Well, don't worry, you don't need to read it or even understand it. Just take away this part here, which I circled in red. Hearing and balance systems are connected. So when we talk about enhancing the sense of hearing, it also might have positive effects on the balance system. So hearing and balance systems are connected. That's all you need to take away from this. And if you're an expert, you know much more than I do about this anyway. Now, slips, trips, and falls are the second highest cause of fatal and non-fatal workplace injuries in the European Union. Just imagine we could do away with at least a significant part of falls, trips, slip injuries that might be related to hearing loss. The likelihood of falls increases with age. 1 in 4 older adults report falling each year, according to a survey done in the United States 2 years ago. And it is a certainty that untreated hearing loss can increase the risk of falls by a significant 30%. The more severe our hearing loss is, the more our chances of fall increase. Wearing hearing aids can reduce our risk of falling by as much as 50%. And I linked the study down on this slide so you can read up on it. So hearing aids have a positive impact on possibly preventing fall accidents that might reduce the rate of work injuries, work accidents, and it might keep people healthier in their job and in employment. Stress. Data taken from the 9 countries I mentioned before. In this Eurotrack surveys, we asked people if they often feel physically exhausted in the evening. Now, what does have physical exhaustion to do with hearing loss? It might be the case that you're straining your neck. If you have untreated hearing loss, you always try to move your face in a way that your better ear is facing the person that is talking to you. And maybe even your eyebrows are clenched the whole day, so your facial muscles are tense, and that might lead to headache, neck aches, and in the evening you might feel physically exhausted and fatigued. That could be a connection here. At least this is what people say. Hearing aid owners, and that's still a lot, 37% say yes, maybe they're older on average, say yes, I'm more likely to feel physically exhausted in the evening. But what's interesting is that people having hearing loss but not using hearing aids are much more likely to feel physically exhausted in the evening, 57% compared to 37%. Stress in its non-physical, in its mental dimension. Do you feel mentally exhausted? We asked hearing aid owners and non-owners, people with hearing loss in those 9 countries, and among the hearing aid owners, only 30% says, yes, I feel mentally exhausted in the evening, whereas 48% of people with significant hearing loss not using hearing aids report feeling mentally exhausted in the evening. Now, what's the consequence of stress, either physical or mental? If you're stressed, you have an elevated level of stress, that is significantly associated with poor quality of sleep. And if you don't sleep well, poor sleep quality can contribute to absenteeism, an impairment of cognitive functions, an increase of the risk of accidents and injuries, and it might reduce the overall work performance. So stress, having a higher or lower level of stress might have an effect on your sleep, and if you don't sleep well, you are more likely to have an injury at work or to not be able to work at all. And now let's see if there's a direct link between the quality of sleep and hearing care. And does that have anything to do with hearing aids, the quality of sleep? Yes, it does. We asked people in those 9 countries again if they are generally satisfied with their quality of sleep. And among those reporting having a hearing loss but not using hearing aid, 56% says no, I'm not happy with the quality of my sleep. On the other hand, 64% said yes, I am among those who are using hearing aids, and only 36% says they're not satisfied with their quality of sleep. So here you see obviously a direct connection. I'm not saying it's a causal link, but there's a connection, a strong link between hearing aid usage throughout the day and the quality of sleep. Now, hearing aids at work. We asked people to summarize their impression of whether or not their hearing aids are useful on the job. And 93% says yes, at least of some use. Most of them said of significant use are hearing aids on the job. And then we ask them, What exactly is it that makes a difference now that you have hearing aids? In how far, what changes have you experienced? In which areas since you used hearing aids? And it's interesting if we boil it down to what is very important and very relevant to the world of work. 65% say my ability to participate in group activities is better. My sense of safety, remember we talked about slips, trips and falls, just one example. My sense of safety is higher. The overall relationships at work are better. Of course, the water cooler, the coffee maker chat, all that is possible again if your hearing is restored. My success on the job, that's an interesting answer. My overall success on the job is higher. That says 53% share. That's very interesting. So you see an overall positive assessment, self-assessment of people using hearing aids with regard to their job performance. In 2025, we asked in one country, as of now, and I'm not saying which country it is, because this country hasn't published its Eurotrack data results yet, but in one EU member country, we asked for the first time, do you believe that due to your hearing aid provision, you will be employed longer than if you had not been receiving hearing aids? And interestingly enough, 54% says, yes, I think so. I think hearing aids contribute to my ability to work longer. And that's significant because if you recall, we said the workforce shortage, one dimension of the workforce shortage is an aging population. And if you want to keep people that are growing older on the job, healthily employed, if they're willing to do so, hearing obviously and restoring the loss of hearing plays a major role. Now, in conclusion, we see links between untreated hearing loss and the increased odds of unemployment or underemployment. That's what the WHO said, one of my first slides. We see from other surveys that people in employment, having hearing loss, not using hearing aids, report a lower satisfaction at their job. They seek earlier retirement. We see an overall loss of productivity. It's the so-called Bridget Shields study that I mentioned at the beginning. And we witness growing costs for societies at large. On the upside, we see a link between professional hearing care and hearing aid use. Specifically, in those examples we had a closer look at. Fall accidents could be reduced, and the overall sense of safety is higher among those people using hearing aids, reporting hearing loss. Stress levels are lower, physical and mental. The sleep quality is higher. The overall social interactions and the participation in group activities on the job and off the job are better. And from this one survey and this new question we started asking, and this year we see potentially a link of hearing aid use and the ability to stay in employment longer. Now, the overall trend that I mentioned at the very beginning, aging population, hearing loss prevalence increasing with age, untreated hearing loss linked to under and unemployment. Again, we won't reverse it in total just by providing hearing aids to everybody who might use them, and there's still a gap. There's still unmet need here. So this arrow is a bit in green, the positive arrow is a bit thinner because again, we won't reverse this trend, but we can contribute to remedy it at least a bit. Now, what is the takeaway for each and every one of us? First of all, especially when you're 50 years and older and you want to stay healthily and happily employed, get your hearing checked, ideally regularly, not just once, do it regularly. Then if there's something off with your hearing, either because your partner says it, your work colleagues say it, or you yourself feel it, or it's the result of your hearing test, seek an early diagnosis. Don't wait. Everybody that we surveyed says, well, I regret not having taken action earlier than I did. But that's another presentation. Seek an early diagnosis if you can. And if there's need to take action, there's need for taking rehabilitative measures, go and seek professional hearing care early. Don't wait. And then if you are prescribed hearing aids, wear them throughout the day, on and off the job. That makes a difference. We see a positive correlation of hours worn and overall satisfaction, not only on the job, but with quality of life and the hearing aids in total. So with this, it was a quick tour de force. We're still under the 15 minutes mark. Thank you very much, and looking forward to any questions later on. Thank you.